Okay, so let's see what we learned in week 2. In week 2, we started our lessons on geometry. Our first lesson is from your textbook. If you see it's 11, it's in lesson 1.1, segment length and midpoints. We looked into the basic geometric terms. The basic terms can be called or classified into defined and undefined term. So why are we calling some terms are defined? These terms like a line, segment, ray, these both are called defined terms because you can describe them with the help of geometric terms. As in, if I try to explain this, I would say a line segment is a line which has two end points. A ray is a line with one end point and the other end going endlessly in the other direction. So what am I trying, or what term am I using to explain a line segment and a ray? I'm using the geometric term line. So these are called as defined term. Now what are undefined term? You have a line, point and plane which are called undefined terms because when you try to describe them or define them, you don't have any terms from geometry to describe them. A point is just a specific location. A plane is just a two-dimensional surface that goes on endlessly in all the directions. A line, you can describe it as a straight path, right, that goes endlessly in all the direction, on either direction. So these are undefined because you don't have any geometric term. No geometric term like a line or you don't have any terms like this from geometry to define these. What are these terms? These are just English terms that are using, right? So it's just using plain English language to define them. So these are all undefined terms and these are defined terms. So we learned this. Then we also learned in class how do you name a point, and we name a point with a capital letter. We name a line with an arrow on either ends. You know to write them. Okay, I'm not going into those details. You might have listened to them in the class. This is how you notate AB. This is how you say it's a ray, and ray AB is not equal to, you may come across this symbol. This is not equal to, AB is not equal to BA. Why? Because the ray AB, this is how you draw a ray AB with one endpoint A, the other end B going endlessly, right? Now how do you draw BA ray? This is how you have BA. Here B will be the endpoint. Here A was the endpoint. So that's why we'll say AB is not equal to BA. Clear? What else did we see? We found out what a plane is. What is a plane? This is a plane. I have another plane. This will be another plane. If these two form an angle of 90 degree, you call it as a perpendicular plane. Okay, so you learned the word perpendicular plane. Then if I have one plane like this and I keep another paper or a plane on top of this, okay, if I keep a paper like this on top, these two could be called as parallel planes. They never cross each other. They will be called as parallel planes. It would be difficult for me to show you exactly the parallel planes here because I'm holding the camera too while teaching you this. Anyway, so that's a perpendicular plane. No, you know what the parallel planes are. They never cross each other or they never intersect. So you need to know this word while you learn geometry. They never intersect. What else do you need to know? You know that a plane is a flat surface. It goes on endlessly in all the directions. Okay, you don't have any boundaries for the plane. A plane can be named by, as if this is a plane, you have a capital W at the corner. Then you can name it as plane W. Or if you have several points on it, a plane consists of infinite number of points on it. Suppose you're naming it, you have the infinite number of points, you name them A, B, C, D, E, F, G or whatever. So to name this plane, you use any three letters. You can name it as A, B, E or B, D, C. Use any 3 points to name the plane. So when you name a plane, you need at least 3 points. If you have 2 points, C, B, and if these 2 points, I can call it as collinear. Why? Because they are all on the same line. all the points which are on the same plane can be called by the term coplanar. So this is coplanar. I have all these points on the same plane. Okay, and if I have another plane over here, if I keep another plane here, and if I have a point on that plane, this points and this point on this particular plane are not coplanar. They are on two different planes, right? Now you know the word coplanar and you know the word collinear. Now let me just rush up because it's already 5 or 6 minutes. We learned this much. Now you can go through your textbook to have a better idea of what I taught you. What else was there? We learned how to copy a line segment. Okay, let's see. If you have a particular line segment like this of length AB, how do you copy this particular line segment? The first thing to do is to use your ruler and you draw a line. You're going to copy this. Okay, you draw a long line. Now how do you copy it? You take this particular measure using a compass. You keep one end at one end of the end point, the sharp end, and the pencil point at B. You copy it. You just keep it onto the line that you drew and you form an arc over there. So some of you had asked me what the word was. ARC. You call it as an arc. Clear? So that's how you copy the line segment. Then another question that we did was we had two lines like this, AB and CD. So how did we copy that? We drew. So what is the first thing to do? You need to draw a straight line because that's where you're going to copy this particular segment. You take your AB, you cut it over here. Done. Now you take your C and D, you keep it at this particular point. You again form an arc. So now AB plus CD is equal to, I can name it either as AD or XY or whatever. You just need to write at the end that AB plus CD is equal to, this is a copy of this particular line segments. Clear? So this is just the basic to show you how to use a compass. Now the next thing that we learned in week 1 was to draw something called as the bisector. Now what do you mean by the word bisector? Bi means two. So cutting something into two equal half could be a bisector. So if I have a straight line like this, see, I'm drawing without a ruler because I want to explain to you. In one hand I have my camera. So when you draw, please use a ruler and draw it properly, or you call this as a straight edge. Now how do I draw the bisector? Always mark all your points. You have a line here of, I marked it as AB, a line segment I have here. Now I want to draw a bisector. What do? Open up your compass to a measure that is greater than half. Now if I take this much, you know that it's not greater than half of this total measure. This is my total length. So when you can judge and you see that almost this much could be a greater than half, right? So an approximate amount which is a measure that is greater than half, you take. You draw an arc on the top and the bottom, and you keep it on the other end of the line segment, the point B. You draw an arc on the top and the bottom. That's it. That's how you draw perpendicular bisector. Now you join these two points. You hold your ruler. I don't even have a helper to hold my ruler. Alicia, can you just help me hold this ruler? Just hold this ruler here. Hold it here properly. Okay, lift up your hand. Hold it properly. On the other end also. Okay, so you keep your ruler like this and you draw a perpendicular bisector so that, thank you. Okay, you draw a perpendicular bisector like this. So why do you call this a perpendicular bisector? Because it forms a 90-degree angle over here. Clear? It's called a perpendicular bisector. We used the word perpendicular earlier. So this is the one, perpendicular bisector. And why do you call it perpendicular bisector? Because these two form an angle of 90 degree. Clear? Now what else? There could be infinite number of bisectors through this point. Why do I say that there are infinite number of bisectors? This is the midpoint of AB, right? When I draw a bisector, this measure is going to be equal to this one. Fine? So if I mark this midpoint as X, AX is congruent to xb. This is something that we learned yesterday or the week 2. AX is congruent to xb. So you use the word congruent for figures. Clear? Congruent. And if I say that AX is 5 centimeter, you can say AX is equal to 5 centimeter. So what word do I use here? I use the word equal. So if it's a number coming on this side, I can use equal. And the word congruent to say that two figures or two shapes that I have are a similar shape or similar size. Here it's the same thing. AX is congruent to XB. And AX is equal to 5 centimeter. BX is equal to 5 centimeter. Hope that's clear. Now let me come back to that point that I wanted to stress earlier. There are infinite number of bisectors. Bisector is a line that just cuts this segment into two, right? So I can draw infinite number of bisectors through this. These are all bisectors, right? All these lines are going to cut my AB into equal halves. Whereas this line that we drew here forms a 90-degree angle with the AB, and so we call it as perpendicular bisector. So I think that's what we learned in week 1. Okay, thank you. So learn well, take the help of this. There could be questions in your textbook. Try to solve them. Try to please bring your geometry kit always to the class. You take your compass. Always when you draw a line, use a ruler and draw it. Clear? Okay, that's it. Thank you.